This video is so cursed. This is my second attempt to live stream it, my 10th attempt to record it. We fixed the mic problem, but now it seems what the program's done is it's turned the mic on in every scene, which is what it divides the various things into. So when I have my little starting intro thing, Julie said they heard me typing. I was like, oh man! So I'm gonna have to remember to turn the mic off, but at least it works anyway. So we are discussing the Daodejing, which we kind of brushed over in the Daoism video of Occult Lessons. This is a deeper dive into the formative text of Daoism. It's 81 chapters. We'll be doing 10 at a time. The first 10, this video, is for everybody. If you want to hear the rest, unfortunately, they are going to be for members only, because I want to thank members and show my appreciation and love for all of you. If you want to see the rest of them, for as little as 99 cents a month, you get access to everything, all the bonuses at every level. The list of benefits is in the description, as well as links to signing up. Without further ado, oh my god. I turned and Bob was sitting down on the floor staring at me. It was a little frightening. You're very frightening, Bob. Where are you? There you are. You gonna join us? I think he's upset because I was taking a nap with him and then I woke up and came over. Oh, hello. Came over here to stream and he's like, where did you go? Mom, you left. Why did you leave? Don't do this. Don't leave, Mom. All right. Without further ado, we're going to read a specific translation of the Daodejing. Derek Lin from Skylight Transition something. It's like a textbook kind of thing. I chose it because it's very straightforward, basic English language. It's not very poetic. It's a newer translation. Some of the older ones are pretty flawed, because the study of the Tao is pretty young compared to other studies of other religions in the East, and a lot of the folks that first got into it didn't always have the best understanding of the language or the wordplay, and, you know, it happens when you translate. I've read quite a few translations to kind of compare them, so I have a general sense of the things that underlie all the translations, but this book has been translated in so many different ways, because there's so much wordplay, and so many different things that can mean a lot of things. You're going to see different no two sentences of this book are going to be the same in any translation. It's wild. All right. Chapter 1. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of myriad things. Thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence. Constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. These two emerge together, but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery. Mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. So this first chapter is introducing us to the concept of what the Tao is. One big thing that it's discussing here is two phrases that in Chinese are yu ming and wu ming. I don't know if I'm saying these correctly. I actually recently purchased a Chinese language learning pack, but that'll be slow going. Basically, those two phrases are name and nameless, but the nameless phrase, wu ming, can mean more specifically unnameable, ineffable. It can't possibly have a name. It is something beyond the concept of names. So these first two lines discussing how the Tao that is eternal cannot be spoken, cannot be named, it's referring to the fact that the Tao is a metaphysical concept. Something that existed in theory before anything else. Before humans had consciousness and could name things and speak and create words, the Tao was there. So the true Tao, the nameless Tao, is the eternal Tao. The one that existed before words and before names. It was unnameable. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. Well, now we're using nameless to refer specifically to the Tao. Everything came from the Tao, so the Tao created the heavens and the earth. It was nameless because it existed before everything, and it created everything. The named is the mother of myriad things. Myriad things is sometimes translated as 10,000 things, being a kind of a number, a emphasis that basically is referring to everything. 10,000 things is basically a phrase for everything, a poetic way of saying it. Myriad things is what this translation uses. So the named is the mother of everything. I'm going to take a break and explain. Metaphysical is like psychic. It's a spiritual thing. It is a mental thing. It is a concept. It's not like a physical thing I can grab and hold. It's metaphysical. So the named is the mother of myriad things. So we've said myriad things is everything. The named is physical manifestation. Because we've said that the Tao is nameless. It existed before names could exist. Once names exist, we have a physical world. The concept of names and of the physical realm exists, and from that comes all things in heaven and earth, because now we can name them. We have computer! It is named, it exists. It has come from the named. So these first 4 sentences are, the Tao existed before names and before words. It was a concept. It created everything. And once the physical realm existed, that's when we started naming things, and the naming of things gave those things life, essentially. So first we have the Tao and things that don't really exist. Then there's the concept of the physical realm, and from that concept we get physical things with names. There you go. The next 2 lines are about the 2 different realms of the world. The essence and the manifestation. That's the spirit realm and the physical realm. Manifestation is always going to mean a physical thing in this kind of translation. With desire, you observe the manifestation, meaning when you want things, you're looking at physical things. I want this tape. It is a physical thing in the world that makes me want to tape things. Without desire, you can see the true spiritual world. Like, you can value things that aren't physical. It's basically saying the world is kind of divided into 2 parts, physical and non-physical, and desire is the root of the physical world. You know, when you want to own things, possess things, you're not thinking of a spirit, really. You're thinking of an object. The 2 emerge together, but differ in name, because they both come from the Tao, but they're different concepts. They're spirit or they're physical. The unity is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. The ending is a little more poetic, where basically it's saying the universe is spirit and physical realm. They exist together, though. Isn't that mysterious? Isn't that strange? So it kind of is opening up with, this is what the Tao is. It created all things. All things came from it. Once it created the physical realm, we could name things. You know, it created the spiritual realm and the physical realm. All this is quite mysterious. I really like this other translation that calls the last 2 lines, darkness within darkness, the gate to all mystery. Sounds very mysterious, but that translation is quite old and sometimes has some errors in it, so I'm not reading that one. Alright, so that's chapter 1. When the world knows beauty as beauty, ugliness arises. When it knows good as good, evil arises. Thus, being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. Long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the sages manage the work of detached actions, conduct the teaching of no words. They work with myriad things, but do not control. They create, but do not possess. They act, but do not presume. They succeed, but do not dwell on success. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away. So we touched on these ideas in the other main video, the idea that when you define something as one thing, you define something else as its opposite, and the dangers that arise from creating those kinds of conflict. If you call someone beautiful, by comparison, someone else is ugly, and that's going to cause strife between them. Better not to do that. So the first part is basically saying, it's emphasizing that point. Long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Therefore, the sages, there's a line very similar to that in a lot of these, which is basically saying A sage is the Taoist, the person that's trying to follow this path to live a good life. Basically, it's saying, if you call something one thing, the opposite is going to exist. You're going to cause problems. Therefore, if you want to live a good life, if you want to be wise, this is what you should do. And a lot of the poetry, if you want to call it that, because I think it is very poetic and very short, a lot of these chapters are going to be like that. It's going to explain a thing and then say, this is how you should do this. With the last part, how you should behave, teaching of no words. This goes to the idea that Daoism is very much about living by example, teaching by example. You know, you're not going to go lecture in a classroom. You're going to do what it is you should do, and other people will see that and be inspired. You create, but do not possess. All this is about letting things go, you know, not allowing desires to rule you. The idea of there are no absolutes. Nothing is absolute in the universe. So instead of going around naming things as good and evil, you know, that kind of thing, causing those kinds of problems, just, you know, just be, just exist, let things go, and live with the Tao. All right. Chapter 3. Do not glorify the achievers, so the people will not squabble. Do not treasure goods that are hard to obtain, so the people will not become thieves. Do not show the desired things, so their hearts will not be confused. Thus the governance of the sage empties their hearts, fills their bellies, weakens their ambitions, strengthens their bones. Let the people have no cunning and no greed, so those who scheme will not dare to meddle. Act without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control. This also goes back to the idea of don't create opposites and define things and cause problems. If you award someone as an achiever, you're putting other people down as losers. If you hoard things, other people will go without, and you'll create thieves. The idea of living with less, being humble, not causing problems, is at the heart of Daoism. I mean, we have, again, the line, governance of the sage. If you want to live a good life, empty their hearts means empty your heart of desire. And especially this one, it talks about so the people. A lot of these chapters are directed at rulers or leaders, because this was a time when a lot of people were writing philosophy aimed at trying to catch the eye of the emperor or the politicians and gain their favor and lead the people. You know, this is how I think you should lead the country. Please pay attention. Please. Remember, Confucius spent his whole life trying that, and the Lao Tzu, who wrote this, according to legend, didn't. He just rode off into the sunset after he wrote all this down. So you want to empty their hearts of desire so it doesn't rule over them. You want to fill their bellies because you want to, you know, take care of their material needs. Weaken in their ambitions, again, lower desire so it doesn't cause problems, but you strengthen their bones. Take care of them physically, but don't let desire overwhelm good sense. There's a fun wordplay here where in ancient Chinese thought, the idea was that the human soul was in your stomach, that the seat of the soul was the stomach. So this line could be considered empty their hearts of desire, fill their spirits, you know, fulfill them spiritually. But either way you look at it, it's about giving them what they need to really live good lives and lowering the things that could lead them astray from the Tao. Let the people have no cunning and no greed, so those who scheme will not dare meddle. If everybody, you know, is good, most people, there might still be some bad apples, but what are they going to do? They're not going to have anybody to scheme with. You know, there's not going to be anybody left to do bad things with. And so they are going to be basically isolated and not have any ability to mess with things. And that is the hope, you know, especially in this kind of like courtly imperial setting. The line about act without contrivance, nothing will be beyond control, I think kind of ties into another line later where basically it's saying, if you don't put up a fight, nobody can fight you. Like, if you're not being combative, you can't be drawn into combat. All right. Chapter 4. The Tao is empty. When utilized, it is not filled up. So deep, it seems to be the source of all things. It blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, dims the glare, mixes the dusts. So indistinct it seems to exist. I do not know whose offspring it is. Its image is the predecessor of the emperor. So a good way to think about the Tao in this portion of the section of the book is as empty space. Think of outer space. It has no end, but it is empty. It's a vacuum. There's nothing really in it. I mean, yeah, there's planets and stars and stuff, but you think about what the idea of something so vast and endless and empty. It doesn't actually end anywhere. It doesn't get filled up. There's no end to it. The idea here is similar. The Tao is potential. It is empty in the sense that it can become anything. It's potential energy, potential life, and there's no end of it. But the line here says it seems to be the source of all things. It seems to exist because, again, it's metaphysical. We cannot hold the Tao. We cannot prove physically that it has existence. It blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, because it is eternal. It will live past everything. Given enough time, all knots will unravel, but the Tao will still exist. We don't know whose offspring it is, because we don't know where it came from. That goes back to the mysteries within mysteries. We don't know where it came from. We don't know what the source of all this is, but it's the predecessor of the emperor, referring to the Jade Emperor, who was the ruler of heaven. That last line saying, it existed even before the gods. The Tao precedes everything. Alright, chapter 5. Heaven and earth are impartial and regard myriad things as straw dogs. The sages are impartial and regard people as straw dogs. The space between heaven and earth, is it not like a bellows? Empty and yet never exhausted, it moves and produces more. Too many words hasten failure, cannot compare to keeping quiet. So, we have to talk about what a straw dog is. It is a sacrificial object in ancient China. You would burn it and then throw it away as part of a ritual. So heaven and earth are impartial and regard myriad things, again, that's everything, as a straw dog, as sacrifice. Everything is sacrificed to heaven and earth. Now, what does that mean? The word impartial here is, in Chinese, is bu ren, which is sometimes translated as ruthless, without compassion, but what it really means is it does not play favorites. Nature does not play favorites. If there's an earthquake, there's gonna be an earthquake, and nobody's gonna, there's no consciousness behind nature picking and choosing who lives and who dies. It just is. The Tao is the same way. It just exists, and things just happen. And so if you are a sage following the Tao, you should too be impartial. You do not pick and choose people. You do not pick and choose favorites. Everyone is the same. You value everyone the same way that the Tao does, the same way that nature does. The last bit, too many words hasten failure, cannot compare to keeping quiet. And the part about empty and yet never exhausted, it moves and produces more. This is all discussing the idea of less is more. Daoism wants to be simple, wants to reduce complexity. Don't run off with your mouth and say things that don't mean anything or aren't important. Less is more. The very last character of the sentence actually is the character zong, meaning middle or center. So some translations, like this one here, will say, more words count less, hold fast to the center. The thing is, in ancient Chinese, the phrase actually means silence. So it quite literally is saying, keep quiet. So the translations vary a little bit. You can kind of see keep to the center as being be moderate, if you want to look at it that way. But more literally it is saying, if you have nothing to say, then don't say anything. Chapter 6. The valley spirit, undying, is called the mystic female. The gateway of the mystic female is called the root of heaven and earth. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. When utilized, it is never exhausted. Valley here is actually the word ku, which can also be nourishes, which would mean who nourishes the spirit never dies. But I prefer the reading of the Valley Spirit, because Valley is a symbol the book uses quite a lot, and is a symbol of the feminine principle. Daoism wants you to be humble, to lower yourself, and by doing so, you will be filled with blessings, the way that a valley fills with rain because it is low. The mystic female here is discussing yin as yin and yang. Daoism really values the yin over the yang, because yin is receptive. It is a humble energy. It is a receiving energy, a yielding rather than an active force, the way that yang, the male principle, was seen as. And that's what they want. They don't want you to act. They want you to be peaceful and receive and contemplate. Let's see here, sacred feminine. The what they're trying to say here is basically that the concept of the mystic female, of the yin, is the gateway, the root of heaven and earth. Heaven and earth being, existence. So essentially, existence comes from the feminine. I think about that quite logically. Literally, the feminine births the world. It flows continuously, barely perceptible, when utilized is never exhausted. That's life. Life doesn't have an ending, essentially. Something dies and something else is born. So from the eternal feminine, from the yin, comes existence, life, heaven and earth, and there's no end to it. It just keeps flowing, and that's part of the Tao. The Tao is that life force that enters the world. Phil. You just came back and you gotta cause problems. Chapter 7. Heaven and earth are everlasting. The reason heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves. Thus they can last forever. Therefore, the sages place themselves last but end up in front, are outside of themselves and yet survive. Is it not all due to their selflessness? That is how they can achieve their own goals. So, again, this is kind of referring to the idea that nature doesn't have a conscious thought that is selfish. It is impartial, it just is, and because of that, it exists forever. It doesn't exist for itself. Someone that exists for themselves, is selfish, is inevitably going to end up destroying themselves and being forgotten. If you exist for others, if you are selfless the way that the Tao and nature is, then others will think kindly of you, will help you, will remember you, and then you are eternal the way that the Tao is. If you place yourself last but end up in front, that's the person that helps everyone and their community, and then the community sees them as a leader, as someone valuable, and puts them above others, puts them first. If you're outside of yourselves yet survive, if you put other people first, give them what they need to survive, then when it comes your turn to be in need of help, they're going to turn around and help you, thinking that everyone is following the Tao and being good. That's the idea that everyone can be selfless and be eternal and follow the Tao, because if we all do that, we're all going to help each other and help move forward the way that heaven and earth does. Chapter 8. The highest goodness resembles water. Water greatly benefits myriad things without contention. It stays in places that people dislike, therefore it is similar to the Tao. Dwelling at the right place, heart with great depth, giving with great kindness, words with great integrity, governing with great administration, handling with great capability, moving with great timing. Because it does not contend, it is therefore beyond reproach. So water is the most commonly used symbol for the Tao. There's so much in common between the concept of the Tao and the behavior of water. It benefits myriad things, again, everything, without contention. Because anybody, good or evil, criminal or judge, can drink water and benefit. It stays in places people dislike, meaning, water is everywhere. It falls into, a landfill the same way that it falls into a beautiful lagoon. And the Tao, too, is everywhere, even in the bad places. The next part is a bunch of descriptions of actions that water does that we should emulate. Dwelling at the right place is the idea that it's in the right place at the right time. When you need it, it's there. Heart with great depth, that's, pools of water are more than their surface. They're very deep. We should also try and be more than surface level. Giving with great kindness, it keeps people alive. The existence of water allows life to exist. Words with great integrity. Water reflects things, and it reflects what they look like. Essentially, it doesn't lie. It is truthful. It reflects the realm around it. Governing with great administration. Again, that's the idea that water is given to everyone equally. Water does not keep itself from anyone and say, no, you cannot have me. Handling with great capability is the fact that it's versatile. It adapts to the container it's in. It adapts to the situation the way that we should. Moving with great timing is it changes with the weather. It changes with the seasons. It is a certain way at the appropriate time. When it's cold, it freezes. When it's hot, it melts. We should also behave appropriately at the appropriate time. Because it does not contend, it is beyond reproach. Again, that's the idea that if you do not engage in combat, no one can combat you. If you do not start a fight, no one's going to be fighting you. So these are all behaviors that water does that we should all try and emulate, and they are also the behaviors of the Tao. This is how the Tao is. This is what water's like. Again, going back to the idea, Daoism wants us to live in peace with nature, to emulate nature. Water is the greatest thing to emulate. Chapter 9. Holding a cup and overfilling it cannot be as good as stopping short. Pounding a blade and sharpening it cannot be kept for long. Gold and jade fill up the room. No one is able to protect them. Wealth and position bring arrogance and leaves disaster upon oneself. When achievement is completed, fame is attained, withdraw oneself. This is the Tao of heaven. So this whole bit is basically saying moderation is key. You can't drink the liquid that overflows in a cup. It's just wasted. You can't fight with a sword if you break it when you're creating it. Moderation is the key to all things. Everything else is just wasteful. And remember, the Tao is about using the perfect combination of energy and action to not waste anything. We want to conserve energy, conserve the Tao, so that we are living the best life we can. If you fill up your room with gold and jade valuables, then you can't protect all that stuff. People will take it. It will cause problems. Wealth and position bring arrogance and disaster. You only have to look at all the kinds of arrogant and horrible people in the world, past and present, who have caused disaster because of their short-sightedness and their foolishness. When achievement's completed, fame is attained, withdraw oneself. That's about letting go, being humble, putting yourself low. That's always going to be better because it's going to lead to benefits for yourself and for others. That's the Tao of heaven. If you achieve fame, great. Don't let it get to your head. Don't hoard things. Don't let that stuff get in the way of living your best life. Chapter 10. In holding the soul and embracing oneness, can one be steadfast without straying? In concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? In cleaning away the worldly view, can one be without imperfections? In loving the people and ruling the nation, can one be without manipulation? In the heavenly gates opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? In understanding clearly all directions, can one be without intellectuality? Bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. This is called the mystic virtue. So the first part, embracing oneness, that's about embracing the Tao. And if you can be steadfast without straying, that's the idea of if you can embrace the Tao, embrace the concept, and keep true to it. Not lose your way along the way. Some translations put it to, can you avoid separation, which doesn't really imply the idea that straying does, where it's a personal weakness that you've strayed from the path. And then it kind of gives what you need to do to keep to the path. If you're going to be living in the way that the Tao does, you need to be like an infant, which is something that's referenced throughout the book. essentially be innocent, the way that you were when you were born. You were completely pure and without desire. That's what we need you to be again. If you're ruling people, if you are a king or a ruler, you need to be without manipulation to follow the Tao, because otherwise you're shitty. You're a shitty ruler. It's just going to cause problems. The heavenly gate opening and closing, the feminine principle, again, that's discussing the yin. And this is about the switch between motion, between action and inaction. Because again, the Tao is about that balance between the restfulness between relaxation and dynamic action. In the heavenly gates opening and closing is the switch between both. When you're kind of balancing that, you need to be like the feminine. You need to be like the principle of the yin, receptive, yielding, patient, and know best when you need to act and when you need to wait. Without intellectuality, a lot of the stuff in this book is very much about not valuing intelligence for intelligence's sake. And you have to think about that in the sense of the Chinese imperial court, where scholars entered the court through taking all these tests, studying for years. You gained your job based on your knowledge of history and the classics and various things, and you could get, power and glory through doing that. And so, you can see where that would lead to a lot of people being very arrogant and very powerful based on their intellect. So the Daodejing often says, that's not important. Valuing intellect for intellect's sake is just another way of being selfish and self-centered. Reading and learning is fine, but don't let it get to your head. The last bit, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance. Again, the idea of letting things go, not letting it get to your head. Don't dominate others and revel in your own power and position. That's the way to live with the Tao. Since this book is 81 chapters, we'll go ahead and do the next one so that every episode after will just be 10 chapters. So this one will be 11. Oh, man. I'm glad I checked that. That is not number 11. Oh, well, I'll just read it to you. 30 spokes join in one hub. In its emptiness, there is the function of a vehicle. Mix clay to create a container. In its emptiness, there is the function of a container. Cut open doors and windows to create a room. In its emptiness, there is the function of a room. Therefore, that which exists is used to create benefit. That which is empty is used to create functionality. This is a really cool idea that goes to the heart of what the Tao is. We so often think of things as being useful or existing by being present. We don't often think of how use is created from the absence of things. You can't have a window to look outside unless you cut a hole in the wall. You can't create a wheel unless you create the spokes and empty out the space in between. To create a container to hold water, you have to empty out the inside. And so this part is emphasizing the value of the emptiness, which again, the Tao is emptiness. And so the metaphor here is that there is importance to emptiness, to letting things go. It can be good to get rid of things, to create empty spaces. You require both to succeed. So this last bit here, with that which exists is used to create benefit, that which is empty is used to create functionality. I'm going to read this whole quote that came from one of the annotations of this translation. The Tao is the ultimate container. It is the emptiness of the Tao that gives it its power and functionality. How can everything come from the Tao? The emptiness makes it so. If the Tao was full and was a physical thing, it couldn't be the empty potential that creates all things. It has to be empty for it to create and exist. The bottle has to be empty to be able to hold water. So sometimes, emptiness has value, and you should balance substance and emptiness and not always value just having a lot of things or, overvalue substance. That is the first 11 chapters of the Tao, the Daodejing specifically, the book of ways, honors, virtues. There's like 5 different titles. I've seen of it in English. I will have to double check what the best one is later. But it's like the book of the ways, virtues, the Daodejing. Thanks for watching. I am so glad this finally was done. I've had so much trouble recording this. I'm gonna do the rest in the next couple days. Give my voice a little rest since I've literally read that whole section like 12 times in the last day. If you're interested in hearing more of this, if you like what I do and want to support it, for as little as 99 cents a month, you can do so. Check the description for links to that. There's a document that shows all the rewards you get at all the tier levels, and you can do it through Patreon or YouTube. Hopefully, the next one of these will be up by Friday. Maybe sooner. We'll see. Yeah, I'm going to go eat, and then we will stream something. Probably Condemned 2. So, thanks again for watching. Thanks to all of our members, Phil, Daniel, Jeff, who else was here today? I think that was everybody. Thanks so much for popping in and saying hello and for supporting the channel. And, I will see you guys next time. Bye.